Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Oasis Focus and Finance Show. I'm your host Shafiq Morton and welcome to the penultimate show for 2015, and what a year it's been. Of course, it's now December. December is holiday season. A lot of us get our bonuses. A lot of us go on holiday. And what happens? Advertisers are going mad. The shops are going mad. And so the ethos is spend, spend and spend. But what happens? In January, we face a pile of debts. So to help us through this December period and to show us exactly what we must do with our money are senior wealth managers at Oasis, Mansoor and Ebrahim Rawoot. Assalamu alaikum, gentlemen.
Walaikum salam, Shafiq.
Ebrahim, you guys have been invited on today's show because you are the analysts, you're the people that deal with us on the coalface. Now, Ebrahim, take us through this January scenario when we get this financial hangover. We've got school fees, maybe university fees, and whoopsie, we've spent all our money over the holidays.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Shafiq. And to look at where you want to be in January and, work your way back to the start of the holiday period, that is going to be quite important, And overspending, as you mentioned, during this period, can happen so quickly. Before you know it, the money that's come in has just vanished. And, you don't want to really find yourself in that type of position. You've worked hard throughout the year, and I think for many it's been a tough year. So when December rolls on, you really want to start, rewarding yourself. And, there's many things that we want to do. There's entertainment for the children. There's, family and friends that you want to take out. There's the evening suppers. There's so many of those type of things. And I don't know why, but, in December, it's those tech companies that always launches those new gadgets, those new devices, and they just plant it out on the different social media platforms. But somehow we just need to have it. So we incorporate that also into our spending. But, whichever way it happens, there is a lot that's happening during this period. So what we really need to do is we need to become a little bit more financial savvy. So we take up a little bit of a budget and we start marking off some of the expenses that we must incur, some of the expenses that we have to incur, and the ones that we would like to incur as well. But I think whatever happens, we need to be careful, because from the time you receive that bonus, from the time you receive your salary in December, January is a long way. And, when you spend all the money come first week of January, it's going to take even longer for you to understand how am I going to be able to pull through. So really what we need to do is, we need to take this stress that we're going to be putting ourselves in, take it out of our life, and really start managing the situation a lot better. And, the last thing that you don't want to be going through during the period of December and January is, over and above these other expenses, is the school fees that we're going to have to be incurring, the school uniforms. Ask Mansoor and I, we both parents of young children,
plus the stationery.
And you have to include the stationery and the tablets and all those things as well. So I think if you really want to get this year off to a bang, it's really about being responsible in your spending style.
Now, Mansoor, like most of us, I'm very good at spending money. I'm an expert at that. But is there anything such as, what is responsible spending?
Shafiq, I think the principle is quite simple. Responsible spending means that one creates a budget and you only spend what you can afford to spend. It comes down to taking charge of your money and make sure that the decisions you make on what to do with your money actually make sense in the way you go about spending it. I think first and foremost, one needs to make a budget, look at your income that you will be earning over that period, and similarly the expenses that you expect to have over the holiday period. We've done that throughout the year, where you've got a budget, you look at your income for the month, your expenses month. Nothing different in December. It's just another month. Yes, like Ebrahim mentioned, there is a hype, there's much more marketing. It becomes difficult not to spend that money. But it's important to take that step back. And again, like Ebrahim said that there are responsibilities that come up in January. And if you plan and have a budget firstly, Shafiq, it's probably the starting point, like I said, to ensure that you don't end up January with that financial burden where you've overspent, there's way too much debt for you to cover over the January month. Yes, you've enjoyed a fabulous December, but your first quarter of the next year, it's going to be turmoil in your life and in the life of your family.
Mansoor, a lot of people may say what you've just said is a case of easier said than done. What if I'm looking forward to that nice holiday somewhere up the coast? I've seen that latest iPad. I want to buy that. And I want to do something with my money. But how do we go forward from here?
Shafiq, it's always good to have the nice to haves. But I think the best present you can give your family is financial security, Shafiq. And while it is very tempting getting caught up in the retail hype, being bombarded, especially with social media right now, taking up most of that space in your day, everything's online. You see, as Ebrahim mentioned, the new gadgets, you see the fabulous places, and it's not foreigners that you're seeing, it's people that you interact with, friends, colleagues from work, and you see them attending this show and that show, and it's stuff that you aspire to and also want to be a part of. I mean, it becomes very difficult. I mean, you walking in the store and spending that credit card. I mean, you don't realize it, the 300 Rand here, 500 Rand there, whether it's you buying another pair of tackies where you've got 5 pairs of tackies already, but it's summer, you want to look good and taking out and splurging on a bit more clothing, or your wife for that matter. I mean, she buys a bright pink handbag, which she absolutely loves, but she's got like 15 other pink bags that could match the outfit. It's an unnecessary
Talking from
spend.
experience.
It's an unnecessary spend there, Shafiq. Similarly, when it comes to gadgets, you might have had a phone, but look, technology changes. 6 months later, it's a new phone, later model, and you feel like you've got a dated gadget in your hand and you buy it. Again, it's an unnecessary spend. Many people can't resist this branding, the marketing, because it appears in emails, social media. Open up a newspaper over the December period and there's more advertising than there is actual content that you can sit and read within that newspaper, Shafiq. So, for example, for those people that's going to use the credit cards, the store cards unnecessarily, it's impulse buys, and these are buys that's going to impact them come January.
Ebrahim, a curveball question for you. Do we need to make a distinction between I want to have or I need to have?
I think, it's a very important question, and, sometimes, the wants to have, sometimes outweighs the need to have. And I think, again, it comes down to responsibility and, how we as individuals, manage that situation very carefully. But, just to add on to what Mansoor mentioned, last week we had this thing called Black Friday. It came from the US, it's now come into South Africa. So the retail stores on Friday morning, 7 o'clock, was all busy. There was all hype about it. And unfortunately, these people are spending money on probably goods and items that they probably don't need. And again, we need to become a lot more responsible. So, as Mansoor mentioned, Shafiq, the one policy that we need to adopt, I think, is something called a cash-only policy. And that is to say, I've got this amount of cash in my hands. How am I going to manage it very carefully? So I do a budget. And then, take those smaller expenses. It's easily be able to fit into that budget. But then, there's going to be those big ticket items. And here we need to be able to understand how we manage the payment of those big ticket items in order to give ourselves a little bit more of leg room around that budget. And then, really what it does do is by having a cash only policy, it avoids that temptation of using that credit card. Credit card is, it's a person, it's an item, it's a it, as we call it, that is really going to allow you to say, swipe me now, and worry about me later. And, somehow that worries come January is just compounded into one huge headache at the end of the day. And then, what I've been telling and inculcating back home in the family is, these homemade items. So my daughter, was going to want to buy a birthday card for a cousin. And I said, instead of buying a birthday card, why not make a birthday card?
So much more meaningful.
Yeah, today people, we caught up in this rat race. And we don't realize that those little small things that we're doing, family and friends do start appreciating it because it comes from the heart. And you know what? It's a lot cheaper than going and buying it from the retail store. We need to become creative, because, at the end of the day, we live in a stunningly beautiful country. So whether it is, a walk on the beach, whether it is a run up the mountain, whether it is a walk on the Sea Point Promenade, these are all free things. I mean, no one is going to charge you to go and walk on the beach. But, again, whether it's a family outing, get all the family together, tell each family to make something, and, you have a wonderful picnic. Unfortunately, the currency is, hurting us quite a bit. So for us to go on an overseas holiday, it's going to become quite expensive. And I know so many families, so many friends that are not going to be going outside South Africa. And, frankly speaking, I don't think there's a need to do that. It's a wonderful, beautiful city that we live in called Cape Town. There's Durban, there's Johannesburg. Each one of those cities have unique tourist attractions for us as locals, and we need to be able to enjoy it. So there's no reason for us to be spending time in the malls. There's no reason for us to be spending time in the shopping centers, because that all involves spending money, and we don't need to be spending that money.
I think, Shafiq, also when it comes to our holidays, Ebrahim mentioned taking that overseas holiday. If you've planned for it, and that's the important part, is if you are planning a holiday in December, the fact that you've planned that you're going to go overseas, or even if it's a local holiday, if it was planned for and you've put the money aside, then there's nothing going to stop you from going. But if it wasn't planned, Shafiq, and that's probably the most important thing, is when it comes to December, it's planning for those trips. Because if you've planned, that means you've made the necessary savings to have the cash available to go on that holiday. But if it comes to end of the year and you decide on the spur of the moment we're going big, or not staying at home and we're going big, you're going to feel that pressure come January, February, March, Shafiq.
And let's hold that thought. And you are watching the Oasis Focus and Finance show. This show, we are discussing the issue of December, holidays, spending, and surviving that January financial hangover. We're taking a quick break, and we'll be back right after this.